This process, the very one that many use to find their pets, is inhumane. It can be compared to buying shoes or a tablet. It is through this process in which many pet owners find themselves in the dark when concerning the conditions in which they purchase their pet from. Do you have a dog? Do you know where you got your dog from? More than 43 million American families own pet dogs, and more than 74% of Americans claim that they love these furry and happy animals. Yet, many pet owners are not aware of where their animals came from. Animal rights activists claim that the main issue isn't whether the pet stores should be able to sell dogs, it's about how these stores get the dogs that they sell. Petco and PetSmart, large pet store chains, refuse to sell dogs. They only promote adoptions through shelters. However, Petland, a major pet store located all around the United States, franchises their animals for only monetary purposes. The major problem with Petland is where they are buying their dogs to sell to their customers. The Humane Society of the United States estimates that there are about 10,000 licensed and unlicensed large-scale commercial breeders in the country, known as puppy mills. A few years ago, investigators visited 21 Petland stores and found that 35 puppy mills were linked to those stores. They found that despite company claims, Petland bought dogs directly from puppy mills. All pet stores have to follow certain regulations, which are all stated in the Animal Welfare Act. The Animal Welfare Act requires proper identification, proper record keeping of veterinarian visits, documentation of pets purchased and sold, housing, compatibility of grouping dogs for safety and socialization, exercise, up-to-date pest control, and properly trained staff.
Petland is, well, we're not just a pet store.
When entering the store, customers are drawn straight to the puppies and their cute little faces and tails wagging back and forth. Next to the windows and around the store, they place signs that assure people that they take care of the dogs with special attention and love. Although the signs may be comforting to the people, there isn't any proof of any standards being upheld to what they say that they are doing. Petland claims, as in any business, there are good breeders and bad breeders. HSUS estimates that there are 8,000 unlicensed and unregulated breeders. These are not where Petland purchases puppies. If you were to close every pet store tomorrow, not a single puppy mill would close. Petland has been caught receiving many puppies from puppy mills, and the more people that buy from Petland, the more money that these puppy mills are receiving. Petland is also very open about obtaining their animals from breeders.
Where did you get them? The Coughlins. Coughlins? They're breeders.
Who are responsible for the surplus of domesticated creatures in the US. It's quite concerning how much Petland is able to get away with. There have been several instances of extreme neglect involving Petland's vet care procedures. Because Petlands are privately owned, each establishment can get away with more. For example, in the Robinson Township in Pennsylvania, an employee quit when she realized that the establishment's owner was refusing vet care for the very obviously sick 9-week-old puppies. Additionally, in Fairfax, Virginia, an employee was filmed freezing mice alive. But worst of all are the puppy mills and breeders. A puppy mill is the closest form of hell on earth for a dog. It's as if they're treated like factory chickens, which is completely inhumane and no creature should ever have to live through it. In a breeder's home, the mother of the puppies spends her whole life doing just that, having puppies. This is extremely abusive and drains the dog's spirits. Our group decided to witness these accounts for ourselves. Entering the store, our immediate impression was that the store was filthy. Through the puppy kennels, we could see the workspace behind them was very disorganized. The overall atmosphere was suffocating. Just being in the store made the group irritable. In every other kennel, there was animal waste. The employees didn't seem to have any concern for the amount of waste in each kennel, to the point where even if the dog began to eat the waste, they did not take any action. Upon observing the kennels, we found that one of the puppies was very ill. Its eyes were glossed over and its breathing patterns were intense and irregular. And even though it is regulation to keep sick pets apart from the healthy, there is another dog in the kennel with it, clearly in good health. When we asked the employees about the shaking dog, their answer was quite obscure.
Hey, what's all the weight?
Since last week. Oh, he's having a dream. My dog does that when he has nightmares.
Your dog does those.
He'll bark and like growl in his sleep.
But the dog was clearly awake.
I'm so scared.
So wait, he has a cold?
That's why his nose is all drippy. Because like it's been like hot and cold and like outside and in here, so it affects them too.
We don't really do background checks unless they're like financing the dog, and then that way we actually have to get like their IDs, and then we get to see like how much they make a month and all that, and we see like what they work in and all that too.
Okay. You said that you only do that when they're like financing the dog?
Yeah, because if they're just like paying it up front, we don't check anything.
So they can just straight up buy a dog and you don't check anything and walk out?
I mean, they have to be 18 or older. That's
So then
it.
just show ID for age and then they walk out?
Basically, yeah.
For further information on animal rights and what our society can do to improve the situation, we contacted Catherine Tipton, a local animal rights activist.
I fight against animal cruelty no matter where it happens. I try to address, write, notice people doing things that are harmful to animals out of either, intent or just sheer neglect or sometimes just stupidity. I think we need to look at all creatures, as important as we are. I will give you a really good example. Are you aware of all the big brouhaha about how the airlines treat passengers? It's been on TV that passengers have gotten in fights and the airlines have kicked them off. Well, another thing that's never mentioned is how airlines treat animals who have to fly with them, and they have to go in cargo. Now, usually you have to put them in a crate and send them, like you do the non-carry-on luggage. So recently, along with all of this, there was a huge rabbit that died en route from England to a buyer in the U.S., and that's not been reported at all. So people are up in arms about what happens to people, but a component to that, of course, is the same thing is happening to animals. They're not being treated very well by airlines. I mean, that's just one example of what I'm talking about. And people tend not to think about or look at animals. Well, I know the repercussions for the animals are pretty horrific, and for the owners that buy the animals from places like that are bad too, because they get animals that are very often ill, sick. It's horrible all the way around. Because once we start looking at animals as living things rather than as commodities to be bought and sold, perhaps that'll be the change that this human society needs.
We also met up with Dana Gaines, who had a lot of insight on the matter and special experience with puppy mills connected to Petland.
Well, I think our spay and neuter laws need to be better because the problem is that people are breeding their dogs, and we just have an abundance of animals. Especially in the South, we don't have the laws like they do up north. I started transporting animals up north because we don't have the issues with spay and neutering up there, and so the South just seems to have a lot of extra dogs. And at the shelters, we're getting about 30, 40 to 50 dogs a day coming into the shelters. So we've got to do something about that. There's so many people that get tired of their animals after a certain period of time, or if the animal has medical issues or behavioral issues, they're so quick to dump their dogs at the shelter as opposed to spending the money to get the medical needs that they need or working with them to help with their behavior. People are just too quick to dump their dogs. Well, Petland gets their dogs and cats or dogs basically from puppy mills. And if you've ever seen horrific pictures of puppy mills, they stick them in a crate, they breed them. They don't care anything about the mamas and the daddy dogs. They just breed them and get the puppies. It's only for monetary. I mean, it has nothing to do with loving your animals. It's all about the money. And I just recently worked with the Humane Society of the United States up in Habersham County, and it's just up. If you go up 85 to 985, it's just up there. It's not, it's about an hour and a half from Atlanta. There was a puppy mill. They had about 300 dogs, and so a lot of the dogs were having babies after they pulled them, and we brought them into a warehouse. But these dogs were in deplorable condition. Their hair was matted, and when their hair is matted up to a certain point, then they get sores and it rips off their skin or whatever. And these dogs are all living in these conditions and no human contact or anything, and they're just in terrible shape. And those are the mamas and the daddies, and those are the puppies that you're buying from Petland, come from those type things. And as long as we have Petland selling these puppies, they're going to have puppy mills. And everybody kind of needs to see exactly where I think a lot of people just are like, I don't want to see, I just want to buy a purebred puppy. But so often those puppies end up being sick. And Petland's the worst. Half the puppies that come from Petland have some sort of illness or something. We also need to encourage people to adopt and not shop, and not go to breeders, because there are amazing animals at the shelters, and there's even purebred.
A special thanks to both activists for providing their insight on the matter. Petland has been corrupted, and the lives of dogs are in the hands of a store that has not been treating dogs fairly. From the regulations in the stores that are not followed, to the puppy mills that the sick dogs come from, Petland has negatively changed the lives of hundreds of dogs and owners. The horrible living conditions are detrimental to the development and health of the dogs. The poor animals are sitting in their own poop and crying out loud, and the employees are not doing a good job cleaning the cages. The regulations of Petland stores across the nation must be reinforced and strengthened in order to ensure the health and safety of the animals. To help, donate your time to local animal rescue and rights organizations, and spread awareness to adopt your animals from animal rescue centers such as the Humane Society. Maybe the best solution for any concerned animal lover is the one that 85% of Americans have already discovered. Don't buy a dog from a pet store. Become an active member of the movement to educate people that pets deserve more than just a store.